if you look at the definition of bail by this, it means that we are looking at a contract here. How do you end a contract? A contract can be ended in 4 ways. 1, by performance. If Abaribe, for example, Senator Enyaya Abaribe had brought Kanu to court. 2, a contract can be performed by agreement by all the parties that, look, let us discharge this contract, let us no longer go on with it. 3, a contract can be performed through breach. That is, you have breached it, because of that, you have not performed, or you have performed it through a breach, in which case the person who has suffered will get damages. And finally, and this is more crucial to our discussion this night, a contract can be frustrated, can be performed through frustration. In other words, due to no fault of either the parties or the court in this case, that contract of you taking Nnamdi Kanu on bail and bringing him back for trial has been frustrated. What do I mean by this? Kanu was granted bail in August this year. He had been in detention since 2015 over charges of terrorism and treasonable felony. The court was later to strike out about 6 of the charges bordering on terrorism, but retained those bordering on treasonable felony, which was why the judge advisedly said she would not overrule herself on the application by Kanu's lawyer to discharge her earlier order that the security agents who will testify will do so behind closed curtains. She said, I will not rescind that decision because I still believe that treasonable charges are themselves serious enough in law. Now, there are 2 applicable doctrines here to guide the listening and the watching public that will help us navigate the legal terrain that appears to be crocodile infested. It's not that difficult. The first principle is what we call res ipsa loquitur. It means the thing, the act, speaks for itself. The second principle is the doctrine of last sin. Last sin. Let us now take these 2 principles by themselves. First, res ipsa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself. It is common knowledge in this country, Okimbaloye, is it not, that on the 11th of September 2017, the army, the military, through the army, one of its wings, invaded the house of Nnamdi Kanu at Ohuhu in Umuahia, Abia State. We saw when the military operation was going on, everything was televised. It was live. And we saw when they penetrated the house. We saw that that was the last time Nigerians saw Nnamdi Kanu in his house. That's what we call the doctrine of last sin. After that, we have not seen Kanu. And his parents or his father also was said not to have been seen. And his family members were now saying, look, we have not seen our son. So going by the doctrine of last sin and the doctrine of res ipsa loquitur, it means that the last time Nigerians saw Nnamdi Kanu was when he was in his home in Umuahia, and the military invaded that home, and he has not been seen since then. The question then comes, can you tell Senator Abaribe to produce a person that he cannot lay hands on? God forbid. Let us assume Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped and is in kidnappers' den. Can you call Abaribe and say you must produce Nnamdi Kanu, even though we are aware it's in the kidnappers' den? That is where Section 177 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act comes into play. This section says a surety can go back to court and apply and say, hello, sir, discharge me from my suretyship obligation. I can no longer carry this load. it is too heavy on me. I can no longer see the person that I stood shorty for. Because that person, after the invasion of his home, I have not seen him. I cannot lay my hands on him. Abaribe in law will be entitled to ask the court for such prayers.
All right. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, where do you see this case going now? This case is just starting. The prayer of the senator, relieve me of this burden of being a surety. We will close the conversation. But tell us, where do you see this going? And how do you think it could be resolved?
Let me quickly say that I largely agree with Oloja, my brother there, my friend there, that the matter is both legal and political, except that the government is taking the political side beyond limits and failing to look at the legal regime. A government such as we have is compartmentalized into 3 departments in accordance with the hallowed doctrine of separation of powers, popularized by Baron de Montesquieu in 1748. The executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. The judiciary was already seized of this matter. It is the judiciary that granted bail to Nnamdi Kanu. It is the judiciary that attached those conditions, or what IMF will call conditionalities, for the bail to be effective. Now, assuming that Nnamdi Kanu has breached every single material particular of those bails, what is the answer? The answer is again through the judicial process. And the federal government has already done the right thing through its lawyers that filed a motion before the same judge, the same Justice Bintanyako, to say, my lord, Nnamdi Kanu has breached these bail conditions. Right. He has spoken to more than 10 people. He has held rallies. He has granted interviews, which you said he should not do.
All right.
Therefore, we want this bail revoked. The federal government should have waited for that legal process to accomplish rather than invade the home through the military.
All right. Because we need to go now. Mr. Oloja, what are your final thoughts? If you are the president today, do you see any way, if you are Senator Abaribe, what are the options?
Well, definitely, they have spoken for Senator Abaribe. If I were in the position to advise the president, I would say, look at the political dimension, because the political dimension, let me read this, if I am able to read this thing that I got online today about political dimension of this thing, it will be okay. They said, it looks humorous but significant. It said, crocodile smilers march to the south-south, python dancers march to the east, while the World Bank developers march to the north. It's a political statement. People have already made up their mind, perception issue, managing perception of whatever happens now because of so many accusations of sectionalism, parochial appointments, and all sorts of things that are odd, that are not in favor of the president. So I believe that he has a duty as a statesman, as a father, as the president of this country to call this thing a political issue and call political leaders to settle this issue.